All right, what's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the number 15. I want to make it clear, more clear in my videos, that some of these revelations were given to me by other people. I'll tell you the piece that God directly showed me, and then I'll tell you the piece that, for instance, in this video, my friend Jerry here on Instagram, and his account is called Rightly Dividing Word of Truth. He gave me some of this information, and he got it by listening, by studying, and sometimes by direct revelation. When I say revelation, what I'm talking about is you get these thoughts, and they show you things that are so incredible that you know that that was not just you, and that is God leading you by His Spirit, and that's in Romans chapter 8. It says, "Those that are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God." So the number 15, what is it? Well, the number 15 is a 120. And we're going to get into the number 122 a little bit. So how is 15 120? Well, the way the number 15 becomes the 120 is if you add it all up. For instance, like this. There are 15 numbers in 15, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then I think it's 15, right? And you add it all up, and it equals a 120. It equals a 120. And the 120 is significant because God prophesied 120 jubilees in Genesis 6:3.
Genesis chapter 6 verse 3, the King James Bible. "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years." This is speaking about 120 jubilees. A jubilee is a 50-year cycle. 50 times 120 is 6,000 years. We also have a type and shadow of 6,000 years through the 6 days of creation, and on the seventh day he rested. Well, 1 day is as 1,000 years to the Lord, and 1,000 years is as 1 day to the Lord. 6 days of creation symbolizing 6,000 years until his return.
So Genesis 6:3, God gave us an amount of time. He told us how long until He comes back. And throughout the Bible, you're going to find 15s and you're going to find 120s at interesting places. The 120 is a 15 and the 15 is 120. And you'll see these variations of numbers throughout the Bible. This is how God leaves us mysteries. This is Proverbs chapter 25 verse 2, which says,
"It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter."
So the Bible is much more than just what Christianity has told us. And these mysteries in the Bible having to do with numbers and patterns. Numbers and patterns. Those are the two key words right there that the Bible, that unlocks total mysteries in the Bible. And that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with patterns, the pattern of 15 and 120s, and we're dealing with numbers, obviously. Now, the 15 mystery is the piece of information that my friend Jerry gave me from Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth, how it adds up to 120. He's the one who showed me that. But this next revelation I got directly from the Lord. And what God told me to do is go to the story of Abraham speaking with God, trying to pull out people from Sodom and Gomorrah because God was going to just destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And God told me to add up those numbers. So in the story, Abraham asked God, what if I find 50 righteous? And God said, go find 50 righteous then. And he couldn't. Then he said, what about 45? And God said, okay. And then Abraham said, what about 40? And God said, okay. So he kept trying to go back and pull people until he got down to 10. So in the Bible it says 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, and 10. And God told me to add those numbers up. And that equals 195. And I said, well, that's not 120. I thought it was going to be a 120. And then God showed me, add those numbers up. And then when you add those up, what do you get? You get a 15. So you get a 120. Now, the reason that this is amazing is because it's the time when God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Just like the 120 Jubilees and the 6,000 year period when Christ comes back in flaming fire at the 120. Well, the same with Sodom and Gomorrah. Christ, fire and brimstone was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah at a 120. It's a type and a shadow. It's a pattern. It's numbers. It's mysteries hidden in the Bible, like the Matrix. It's code. Now, here's another amazing thing when I found a 120 in the Bible. And that is in Acts chapter 1, when the upper room was filled with the disciples and the Holy Spirit fell upon them. Everybody knows the story who knows the Bible. And this is what it says. Acts chapter 1, verse 15. Look at in verse 15. It's crazy. And in those days, Peter stood up in the midst of the disciples and said, the number of names together were about 120. So there's another 120. But the key there is that it says about. And I think that God is giving us a clue there. That's what he's doing, I think. I think that the reason that it says about 120 there is because, here in the last days, everybody's looking for the end of the 120th Jubilee, which is fine. And everybody's about at the same area. And I think God said that because he's saying, well, I don't have to do it exactly at the 120. You see, and that's like a little clue that God will leave you. That's how the Bible is. When you start looking at the scriptures, the Spirit is working through you, things jump out at you. You see the Bible in ways you've never even imagined. You start to see these mysteries, and it really unlocks the mysteries, numbers, and patterns. So going back to the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, it's interesting too how that is an exact type and shadow of the end when Christ comes back, because Abraham tries to go out and pull somebody out, 10 all the way down to 10. Nobody's gotten pulled out, and then they're all destroyed. But before that, the angels go in and get God's man Lot and his people out, just a few people. So just symbolic of right before the day of the Lord, the angels coming and gathering together his elect from the four winds of heaven, like Matthew 24 says. And I believe Paul is speaking about the same gathering in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. They're all types and shadows. The key words here are patterns, and then going even deeper or one step further is numbers. And that's what God is showing us. And when you see these things, then every day you wake up and you're like, what is God going to show me now? This is an amazing book.